What happens when a calm conversation suddenly turns into one of the most uncomfortable moments live TV has seen in a long time? Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The cameras are already rolling inside the view. The audience is settled. There's that familiar buzz in the room, a mix of anticipation and routine. Joy Behar is leaning slightly forward in her chair, her expression sharp but relaxed, the way viewers have come to expect. To her side, the other co-hosts are exchanging light comments, the kind of warm-up chatter that usually sets the tone for the segment. Then the introduction begins. And joining us today, one of the hosts says with a smile, is an actor you all know and love, star of so many incredible films, and someone who's had quite a journey recently. Please welcome Jeremy Renner. The audience erupts into applause. It's loud, genuine. Jeremy walks out with a composed smile, waving, shaking a few hands on the way. He looks grounded, maybe a little reserved, but confident. He takes his seat, adjusts slightly, and nods to the hosts. Thanks for having me, he says, his tone calm, appreciative. Joy smiles, but it's the kind of smile that already feels like it's leading somewhere. We're glad you're here. Everyone's been talking about your recovery, your resilience. It's been intense to watch. Jeremy nods. Yeah, it's been a road. But I'm here, I'm working, I'm grateful. The audience gives a soft round of applause again. The tone, at least for now, is supportive. Another host jumps in, asking about his recent projects, his physical therapy, how life has changed. Jeremy answers patiently, thoughtfully. He speaks in a grounded way, not dramatic, not overly polished. It feels real, and the audience connects with that. Then Joy leans in slightly. You say you're grateful, she says, tilting her head. But some people watching might say, you've been a bit quiet. Especially when it comes to certain public conversations happening right now. There's a slight shift in the room. It's subtle but noticeable. Jeremy's expression doesn't change much, but he pauses for just a fraction of a second. What do you mean? He asks. Joy doesn't hesitate. I mean, you have a platform. A big one. And there are a lot of issues out there, social, political, where people expect voices like yours to speak up. But you've chosen to stay out of it. Why is that? A few murmurs ripple through the audience. It's not loud, but it's there. Jeremy exhales lightly. I wouldn't say I've stayed out of it. I just choose where I put my energy. I've been focused on recovery, on my family, on getting back to work. Joy raises an eyebrow. Sure, but a lot of people go through things and still manage to speak out. Some would say it's a responsibility. The tone tightens just a bit more. Jeremy shifts in his seat. I hear that. I do. But I think responsibility also means being honest about where you are. And right now, I'm not interested in jumping into every conversation just because people expect me to. One of the other hosts quickly jumps in, trying to soften things. And that's fair. Everyone handles things differently. But Joy cuts in, not aggressively, but firmly. But don't you think silence can be interpreted as indifference? There it is. The first real spark. Jeremy looks directly at her now. No, he says, calmly but more firmly than before. I think that's an assumption. And I think it's a dangerous one. The audience reacts, a mix of oohs and scattered claps. Joy leans back slightly, crossing her arms. Dangerous? That's a strong word. It is, Jeremy replies, because it puts people in a box. It says, if you're not speaking the way we want you to, then you must not care. And that's just not true. There's a pause. The air feels heavier now. One of the co-hosts tries again to ease the moment. I think what Joy is getting at is. But Jeremy continues, not raising his voice, just holding his ground. No, I get what she's saying. I just don't agree with it. That line lands. You can feel it. Joy smiles again, but now it's sharper. Well, disagreement is fine. That's why we're here. Exactly, Jeremy says. And I'm here to be honest, not to perform. The audience reacts again, this time louder. Some applause, some murmurs. Joy tilts her head. Perform? You think this is performance? Jeremy doesn't back off. I think sometimes in media, there's pressure to say the right thing, the expected thing. And if you don't, you get questioned like there's something wrong with you. The tension is no longer subtle. It's right there on the table. Another host interjects, half laughing, trying to keep it light. Okay, we're getting into it now. But Joy isn't letting go. Or maybe, she says, leaning forward again, people just want accountability. Jeremy nods slowly. And accountability goes both ways. That line draws a louder reaction from the audience. Some clap immediately. Others just watch wide-eyed. Joy's expression tightens for a moment. What does that mean? Jeremy pauses, choosing his words carefully. It means asking questions is fine. But assuming intent? That's where it gets tricky. There's a brief silence. The kind that only happens on live TV when no one is quite sure who should speak next. The energy has completely shifted now. What started as a standard interview has turned into something else. Something more real, more unpredictable. One of the hosts finally jumps in again. Let's take a step back for a second. But the audience is already leaning forward. They can feel it. This isn't over. Not even close. And Jeremy? He's no longer just answering questions. He's pushing back. The moment hangs in the air longer than anyone expects. You can feel it, that quiet tension where even the audience doesn't know whether to clap, laugh, or just stay silent. One of the co-hosts clears her throat softly, trying to reset the tone. I think what we're really talking about here is expectations, she says carefully, glancing between Jeremy Renner and Joy Behar. People expect public figures to use their platforms, but also, everyone has their own boundaries. Jeremy nods slightly. Exactly. That's all I'm saying. Joy doesn't respond immediately. She taps her fingers lightly against the table, then leans forward again, her voice steady but more pointed now. But here's the thing, when you say boundaries, it can sound like you're choosing comfort over responsibility. A few audience members murmur again. Someone claps once, then stops. Jeremy's jaw tightens just a little. Comfort? He repeats, almost under his breath, then looks back at her. You think what I've been through is about comfort? There's an audible "oh" from somewhere in the audience. Joy raises her hands slightly. That's not what I said. But that's what it sounds like, Jeremy replies, still calm, but there's more weight behind his words now. I've spent months just trying to walk again, trying to get back to a normal life. And somehow that turns into, what? Me avoiding responsibility. The audience starts clapping, louder this time. A few people nod, clearly on his side. One of the other hosts quickly jumps in. And that's a fair point, recovery is. Joy interrupts again, but her tone is sharper now. No one is dismissing that. But being a public figure comes with scrutiny. That's part of the deal. Jeremy doesn't look away. Scrutiny is fine. Assumptions are not. The rhythm of the conversation is getting faster now, more overlapping, more reactive. Joy tilts her head. So you don't think the public has a right to question you? I think the public can question anything they want, Jeremy says. But that doesn't mean the questions are always fair. That lands hard. The audience reacts again, a mix of applause and uneasy laughter. Another host leans in, trying to redirect. Let's talk about something you did mention earlier, your recovery. Because people really have been inspired by it. Jeremy nods politely, but before he can answer, Joy jumps back in. Inspired, yes, she says, but also curious. Because you've been very selective about what you share. And in today's world, transparency matters. Jeremy exhales slowly, almost like he's deciding whether to keep engaging at this level. Transparency doesn't mean access to everything, he says. There's a difference. Joy immediately responds. But when you're in the spotlight, that line gets blurry. And that's exactly the problem, Jeremy shoots back, a little quicker this time. That line shouldn't be blurry. The audience reacts again, louder now. There's a clear division in the room. Some people clap for Jeremy, others seem more reserved, watching closely. One of the co-hosts raises her hands slightly. Okay, let's not talk over each other. But the energy has already shifted into something harder to control. Joy leans back, crossing her arms again, but her eyes stay locked on Jeremy. You seem frustrated. Jeremy gives a small, almost incredulous smile. I'm not frustrated. I just don't like being told what I should or shouldn't be doing with my own voice. Joy responds instantly. No one's telling you what to say. We're asking why you're not saying anything. Jeremy shakes his head slightly. That's not the same thing, but it feels like it sometimes. There's another pause, but this one is shorter, tighter. The audience is fully engaged now. You can hear whispers, shifting in seats, even a few people reacting under their breath. One of the hosts tries again to bring balance. I think what Jeremy is saying is that there's pressure, and what Joy is saying is that there's expectation. And those two things don't always align. Jeremy nods. Exactly. Joy shrugs slightly. And I think expectation comes from influence. You can't separate the two. Jeremy leans forward now, mirroring her posture. But influence doesn't mean obligation to speak on everything. That's unrealistic. Joy responds quickly. No one said everything. But something. Jeremy's tone sharpens just a notch. And who decides what that something is? That question hangs. Joy opens her mouth, then pauses for just a second, the first real hesitation from her. Well, society, I guess, she says. Jeremy lets out a short breath, almost a quiet laugh. That's a pretty big, vague answer. A ripple of laughter moves through the audience, mixed with a few claps. Joy smiles, but it's tight. It's a real answer. Jeremy nods slowly. It's a complicated one. Another host jumps in quickly, sensing the need to cool things down. Okay, let's pivot just for a second. But Joy isn't done. So let me ask you directly, she says, her voice more focused now. Do you think celebrities have a responsibility to speak on social issues, yes or no? The room goes quiet again. Jeremy looks at her, then briefly glances at the audience, then back. I think celebrities are people first, he says. And people have different capacities, different experiences, different priorities. Joy presses. That's not a yes or no. Jeremy doesn't back down. Because it's not a yes or no question. The audience reacts, louder this time. Some clap immediately. Others murmur, clearly feeling the tension. Joy leans in even closer now. It can be, if you're willing to answer it. Jeremy meets her gaze without hesitation. And I'm willing to answer it honestly. Not simply. That line hits hard. There's a brief moment where no one speaks. Even the co-hosts seem unsure whether to step in or let it continue. The audience is completely locked in now. No distractions, no side chatter, just attention. Joy finally leans back again, exhaling slightly. All right, she says, her tone shifting just a bit. I'll give you that. It's complicated. Jeremy nods once. It is. For a split second, it feels like the tension might ease. But then Joy adds, almost casually, still feels like a missed opportunity, though. And just like that, the spark is back. Jeremy's expression changes. Not dramatically, but enough to notice. His shoulders shift slightly, his posture tightening again. A missed opportunity for who? He asks. The audience reacts immediately, louder, sharper. Joy doesn't hesitate. For the people who look up to you. Jeremy nods slowly, but there's something different in his tone now. More direct. Less patient. Or maybe, he says, it's an opportunity for people to realize they shouldn't rely on celebrities for guidance on everything. The audience erupts, some clapping loudly, others gasping, a few shaking their heads. The co-hosts all react at once now, overlapping voices, trying to manage the moment. Okay, all right, hold on. Let's just. But the conversation has clearly crossed into something deeper now. This isn't just a discussion anymore. It's a clash. The noise from the audience doesn't die down right away this time. It lingers, claps, a few scattered cheers, and some uneasy reactions mixing together. The co-hosts glance at each other, all of them aware that the conversation has gone far beyond a typical segment on The View. One of them leans forward quickly, trying to regain control. Okay. Let's just bring this down for a second, she says, her voice calm but firm. We're having a real conversation, and that's good, but let's not lose each other in it. Jeremy Renner nods slightly, but he doesn't look away from Joy Behar. The eye contact is steady now, unbroken. Joy adjusts in her chair, her posture straightening as if she's settling in rather than backing off. No one's saying people should rely on celebrities for everything, she says. But influence is real. Whether you like it or not, people listen to you. Jeremy responds almost immediately. And that's exactly why I'm careful about what I say. Joy tilts her head. Or careful about what you don't say. A few audience members react with a quiet sensing the shift again. Jeremy exhales through his nose, a faint smile appearing but without any humor. You keep framing it like silence is avoidance, he says. But sometimes it's just not playing into noise. Joy leans forward again. You call it noise. Other people call it real issues. And I respect that, Jeremy replies, his voice still controlled but firmer now. What I don't respect is the idea that there's only one way to show that you care. The audience claps again, louder this time, more confident. Joy gestures lightly with her hand. But no one's saying there's only one way. We're just saying doing nothing publicly. Jeremy interrupts her for the first time, not loudly, but clearly. You keep saying doing nothing. That's not accurate. That interruption lands. The audience reacts instantly, a louder, oh this time, followed by a mix of clapping and murmuring. Joy pauses, clearly registering the interruption, then gives a small nod. All right, she says, her tone tightening. Then tell me, what are you doing? There's a slight shift in Jeremy's posture. He leans forward, resting his hands together, choosing his words carefully but without hesitation. I'm working with people directly, he says. Privately. I'm supporting causes in ways that don't require a camera or a headline. The audience quiets down again, listening closely. Joy raises an eyebrow. And why not make that public? Wouldn't that inspire more people? Jeremy shakes his head slightly. Because not everything needs to be turned into a statement. Joy responds quickly. But visibility matters. Jeremy nods once. So does intention. That exchange hits differently. It's quieter but heavier. One of the co-hosts leans in again, trying to mediate. I think what Jeremy's saying is that impact doesn't always have to be visible to be real. Joy turns slightly toward her, but doesn't fully break her focus. And what I'm saying is that visibility can amplify that impact. Jeremy responds before the moment can soften. It can, but it can also turn it into something performative. There's that word again, performative. The audience reacts immediately, louder now. Some clap, others shift uncomfortably. Joy lets out a short breath, almost a laugh, but there's no humor in it. You keep coming back to that, she says. Do you think people speaking out are just performing? Jeremy shakes his head. No, I think some people are genuine. I also think some people feel pressured to say something so they don't get criticized. Joy leans forward, her voice more pointed. And you don't feel that pressure? Jeremy looks straight at her. Of course I do. That answer catches her off guard for a split second. But I don't let it dictate what I say, he continues. The audience reacts again, a strong wave of applause, louder than before. Joy nods slowly, but her expression is more serious now. So you're saying you're above that pressure? Jeremy immediately shakes his head. No, I'm saying I make my own decisions despite it. One of the co-hosts softly interjects. That's an important distinction. But Joy cuts in again, her tone sharper. Because it can come across like you're distancing yourself from the responsibility others are willing to take on. Jeremy leans back slightly now, folding his hands together, his voice steady but clearly more direct. Or, he says, it can come across like I'm refusing to follow a script. The audience reacts instantly, louder than any moment so far. There's a mix of applause, gasps, even a few people standing slightly in their seats before sitting back down. Joy's eyes narrow just a bit. A script? Jeremy nods. Yeah, the expectation that there's a correct way to respond to everything publicly. And if you don't follow it, you're questioned like this. Joy doesn't respond immediately. For the first time, there's a longer pause from her side. Another host quickly steps in, her tone more urgent now. Okay, let's just acknowledge what's happening here. This is clearly a bigger conversation than just one person. This is about how public figures navigate expectations, But Jeremy continues, not talking over her loudly, but not stepping back either. I'm not saying people shouldn't speak out, he says. I'm saying it should come from a real place. Not pressure. Not fear of backlash. Joy finally responds, her voice lower but more controlled. And who decides what's real? Jeremy meets her gaze again. The person speaking. Joy shakes her head slightly. That's subjective. Jeremy nods. Exactly. The audience reacts again, a wave of mixed reactions, some clapping, some murmuring. The tension now isn't explosive, it's steady, sustained. Both of them are locked into their positions, neither backing down, but neither raising their voices either. It's controlled but intense. One of the co-hosts tries again to lighten the tone, offering a small smile. This is definitely one of the most honest conversations we've had in a while. A few people in the audience laugh softly, grateful for the slight release. But Joy isn't done yet. So let me ask you this, she says, her tone shifting again, more direct, more personal. Do you think the audience here, or people watching at home, are wrong for wanting more from you? That question lands differently. It's quieter, but heavier than anything before it. Jeremy pauses. Not for a split second this time, a real pause. He looks out toward the audience briefly, then back at Joy. I don't think anyone's wrong for wanting anything, he says slowly. But I think expectations can become unfair when they ignore reality. Joy leans in slightly. And what reality is that? Jeremy's expression tightens just a little. The reality that I'm a person, he says. Not a spokesperson. Not a symbol. Just a person trying to figure things out like everyone else. The audience reacts, a strong, sustained round of applause. Joy listens, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she responds, quieter now. But you're not just a person. not in the public eye. Jeremy doesn't hesitate. That's where we disagree. And that's the moment. Not loud, not explosive, but final in a way that shifts the entire tone of the conversation. The co-hosts all look at each other again, clearly feeling it, that this has gone as far as it can without either breaking or turning into something even bigger. One of them quickly steps in, her voice more upbeat now, trying to guide things forward. All right, we're going to take a quick break. But the audience is still reacting, still processing, still caught in what just unfolded. And as the cameras begin to pull back slightly, you can still see it on both their faces. Neither of them has backed down. And whatever happens next, it's not going to be simple. The cameras come back from the break, and there's an energy in the room that feels completely different from how this segment started. It's not just anticipation anymore. It's curiosity, tension, and that lingering question in everyone's mind about how this is going to end. The audience is quieter now, more attentive. Even the usual light chatter is gone. On the set of The View, the co-hosts sit a little straighter, more measured. You can tell they're aware that what just happened isn't something you can simply move past with a joke or a quick topic change. One of the co-hosts smiles politely at the camera. "Welcome back," she says. "We're here with Jeremy Renner, and we've been having quite a conversation." There's a light ripple of laughter from the audience, but it's cautious. Jeremy nods, giving a small, respectful smile. "Yeah, it's been real." That word lands softly, but it carries weight. Joy Behar adjusts her position slightly, her expression calmer now, but still focused. "And that's what we do here," she says. "We talk. Sometimes it gets uncomfortable." Jeremy nods again. "And that's okay." There's a brief pause, not awkward, but reflective. Another host jumps in, her tone more balanced. "I think what people just witnessed is something that doesn't always happen on TV, a real disagreement without it turning into shouting." A few audience members clap at that. Jeremy glances toward Joy briefly. "I don't mind disagreement," he says. "I just think it should leave room for different perspectives." Joy nods slowly. "And I don't mind pushback," she replies. "I just think influence comes with a certain level of accountability." There's no interruption this time. No immediate back and forth. Just two positions clearly stated. The audience reacts with a softer, more thoughtful round of applause. One of the co-hosts leans in. "Do you feel like you understand each other better now?" Jeremy lets out a small breath, thinking about it. "I understand where she's coming from," he says. "I just don't fully agree with it." Joy gives a slight smile. "That's fair." Then she adds, "And I understand your point too. I just think it's limited." A few audience members react to that, a mix of quiet laughs and murmurs. Jeremy nods, not taking the bait this time. "That's your perspective." The tension isn't gone, but it's evolved. It's no longer sharp. It's settled into something more reflective, more controlled. Another host shifts the conversation slightly. "Before we wrap up, I do want to ask, after everything you've been through, what matters most to you right now?" Jeremy's expression softens a bit for the first time in a while. "Time," he says simply. "Time with my family. Time doing things that actually mean something to me. And being honest about where I am." The audience responds warmly, a genuine round of applause, less divided this time. Joy watches him for a moment, then nods. "That's something people can relate to." Jeremy gives a small smile. "I hope so." There's a natural pause, and for the first time since the clash began, it feels like the conversation has found a place to land. The co-hosts begin wrapping up the segment. "Well," one of them says, smiling at the camera, "this has definitely been one of our more memorable conversations." The audience laughs lightly, clapping again. Jeremy chuckles under his breath. "I had a feeling it might be." Joy adds, "We aim to keep things interesting." There's a hint of humor there now, not fully relaxed, but enough to ease the moment. As the segment officially ends, the cameras widen out. The audience applauds, louder now, some people even standing. The energy is mixed, part appreciation, part disbelief at what they just witnessed. But the real story doesn't stop there. Because almost immediately after the show wraps, clips start circulating online. Short moments, Jeremy saying, "I'm not here to perform." Joy asking, "Isn't that a responsibility?" begin appearing everywhere. Within minutes, social media lights up. On platforms like X and Instagram, people are already picking sides. Some users are posting clips of Jeremy, praising him for staying calm and standing his ground. Comments start flooding in. Finally, someone said it. He handled that with respect. Not every celebrity needs to speak on everything. At the same time, others are backing Joy's perspective. She asked valid questions. Public figures do have responsibility. He avoided the point. The debate spreads quickly. Hashtags begin trending. Reaction videos pop up within hours. Even other media personalities start weighing in, referencing the moment from The View as one of the most real exchanges the show has had in a long time. Behind the scenes, things are quieter, but still significant. Sources close to the production mention that while the segment wasn't planned to go in that direction, producers chose not to cut it short because of how genuine it felt. No one stepped in to shut it down. No commercial was rushed in early. It played out as it happened. Jeremy, after the show, is seen briefly backstage, thanking some of the crew, exchanging a few polite words with the hosts. No dramatic exit. No visible conflict off camera. Just a calm, professional wrap-up. Joy, on the other hand, is said to have stood by her questions. Not defensive, but firm, the same tone she carried on air. And that's what makes the moment stick. It wasn't about shouting. It wasn't about chaos. It was about two people holding completely different views and refusing to back down from them. By the end of the day, the clip has been watched millions of times. News outlets pick it up. Commentary channels break it down. Some call it refreshing. Others call it uncomfortable. But almost everyone agrees on one thing. It felt real. And in today's media world, that's rare. Back on screen, as the segment replay fades out and the final moments of the show roll, the audience applause echoes one last time. A reminder of how quickly a normal conversation can turn into something people keep talking about long after it ends. Now it's your turn. What do you think about this moment between Jeremy Renner and Joy Behar? Was Jeremy right to push back, or do you agree with Joy's stance on responsibility? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories.